more traffic isn't going to solve all of your problems. If the rest of it is a complete mess and there's like a black hole in the middle of the funnel and the offer's unclear, um, more traffic is just going to amplify those problems. Um, there's an old saying that's like, people say money makes people do bad things, but rather it's probably more of an amplifier of your personality beforehand. Traffic's kind of the same. Like if you've got big issues in the overall model or the structure, just pumping more traffic into it is just going to amplify that, and it's gonna come at a cost. It's going to come at a cost of not monetizing those leads, your energy, your money, your time. It's going to leak out. Okay, so that's why we ended up here on part four as opposed to starting here. From front to back, traffic is actually the first thing because nothing works without traffic. But equally, if we put traffic into a mess or we put it into nothing in terms of no offers, no structures, no model, there's no point. Stacking traffic in multiple directions to multiple funnels with multiple offers slash backends is it's achievable. You can do it, but it's just really, really hard. And so I think the way that we've built things over the last few weeks where it really simplifies it down is going to serve you well because now when you, let's say you start with one traffic source and then in 3 months you layer in a second one and then in 3 months you layer in a third one, it's not about layering in three traffic sources that are pointing in three different directions. Rather, it's about layering three traffic sources all pointing in the same direction. And so it can really become like 1 + 1 + 1 equals 10 because they complement each other, they feed into each other. People will move between them. Quite frequently, I'll see people who might reply to an email, then they'll go over to my Instagram and they might like request a resource over there. Then I might even see them like a post on Facebook. They might comment on a YouTube video and then they join. It's like people do like the runaround through the ecosystem and then come out the other side. And so we want all of them interconnected and talking to each other as best as possible. We're not really aiming to build like one traffic that does everything. We're focused on building an ecosystem because I genuinely believe from my own experience and from the client businesses that I've worked with, this idea of an ecosystem is really, really critical in today's market. Whereas back in the day, it was very, you could put up an ad to, a random calendar to a $10,000 offer and you could clean up. Uh, People are taking a bit more time to consume, and we need to engineer an ecosystem that allows them to do that, that provides them with the infrastructure that they can move around. They can read an email, they can click on a YouTube video, they can go see us on Instagram, they can, download a thing here, download a thing there. We need to engineer that consumption. Otherwise, if there's just not enough for them to sink their teeth into, such that they become educated about who we are and what we do, they bounce. Okay. This is the other important thing to realize too. Nurturing takes time. Every lead is a real person, and focus on your inputs of more volume in, more depth inside the ecosystem and daily offers. Focus on what you can control, right? Especially with this no call approach. So everyone loves the idea of not having to do sales calls, but what people don't love is when it takes a bit longer for people to convert. And you've got to think about it from the customer's perspective, right? Because let's say they've got 10 questions in their head that's ultimately holding them up from paying you. Is it easier to do that on a call? Yes, of course it is, right? We just jump on a call and we nut those things out. We can directly handle their objections. But the problem is we're not optimizing for ease in that sense. We're optimizing for leverage. And so our ecosystem needs to answer all of those questions proactively, either through a YouTube video that we release, through our emails, through our remarketing ads. Like we need to answer those questions, answer those objections, educate that lead proactively. And this is where it's more of a challenge, but the reward is far greater because all of a sudden you've got a clear calendar that you can then go and reinvest that time into whatever you want to do. I had a mentor who set off a big light bulb for me, which was most people stay stuck in the trap of trading energy for money, energy for money, energy for money, over and over and over again. And that's fine. But if you want to break out of that cycle, the key is to insert an asset into the middle. and you allow the asset to generate the income as opposed to you generating the income. Now, how this works is that we put our energy into buy that asset, build that asset, create that asset, and then the asset does the heavy lifting. It's no different from you taking, let's say you got 500 grand, you go and invest it into a piece of real estate. That's a store of that energy, and then it spits off cash flow. You investing in building ads and playbooks and email automations and offer docs and delivery systems and onboarding systems, it's the exact same. It's just your physical energy as opposed to monetary energy. You're storing it up in an asset in the business, and then it's doing the work as opposed to you doing the work. And of course, that's going to take longer because it's a 3-step process instead of a 2-step process, right? If we were just bouncing back and forth, trading time for money, there's a lot more guarantee around it, which is the entire employee approach, where people get paid for every hour that they work, but your upside is capped, right? Because you can only work so many hours. All right. So just keep in mind that it does take time for people to be nurtured. How long? It depends on the lead. It depends on how many touch points you've got. It depends on how good your content is. It depends on how good your emails are. But if you keep putting people into the system and you keep nurturing them, a percentage of people will come out the other side. Then you've got data and you can, assess and make sure the economics work. Most people buckle in that shift phase, in that phase from going from trading energy for money over and over again. The transition phase over to an energy into assets, into money, most people buckle because they aren't getting the immediate feedback from that exchange that we're all so used to making. And then they fall back into it because it's comfortable, it's an immediate feedback loop, and it feels right or normal, or it fuels their identity, however you want to articulate it. But if you can ride out that transition period, it's a completely different ballgame. It's no different from like, you look at these businesses that go on to become unicorns and wildly profitable. They had seasons where they weren't profitable. They had long seasons where they weren't profitable, where they're aggressively reinvesting back into the business or aggressively reinvesting into R&D. It's an investment. It's an investment of your energy into building that asset. It's no different. This is, in my experience, the way to win with paid marketing is to play the long game. The longer game you can play in terms of like, if you can sit back and go, well, I don't really care if you join in week 1 or in month 6, you're going to be able to beat your competitors. This is less important in less competitive markets, but as you get into more competitive markets, the more you can invest to build to get a customer or a client, the better. The more time you can invest, the more money you can invest, it's going to be a bigger advantage. And this comes back to first principle stuff. Like, the person playing the longer term game is always going to win in the long run, as opposed to the person trying to cash in yesterday. Leads can sit idle in your ecosystem for weeks, months, or even years. The person who wins is the one who keeps showing up with value and making offers. To drive more conversions for longer, add depth, not complexity. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. So these are just some fundamentals I wanted to put on the table to kind of set the scene for what we're going to dive into today.